The silver ship moved slowly through the dark space between stars. Its metal body was smooth and shiny, catching the light from distant suns. Inside the ship, strange beings worked at their stations. They were not like humans at all, Commander. Zeph-9 stood in the center of the control room. His body was made of what looked like living crystal. When he moved, his body changed colors from blue to green to purple. He was tall and thin, with no face as humans would know it. Instead, he had patterns of light that moved across his crystal skin. "We are close to the yellow star system," said his science officer. Her name was Velterra, and she was very different from Zeph-9. Her body was soft and purple, with long arms that looked like thick ropes. At the end of each arm were many smaller arms that moved like fingers. She touched her controls with these small arms, making the ship's computers work. "Show me the third planet," Zeph-9 said. His voice did not come from a mouth. Instead, it came from vibrations in his crystal body. The big screen at the front of the room lit up. It showed a blue and green world spinning slowly in space. White clouds moved across its surface. It looked peaceful and beautiful. "The planet has water," Velterra said, "and land and an atmosphere. The computer says there are living things on it." "What kind of living things?" asked ZEPH-9.VE. Altera's small arms danced across her controls. Pictures appeared on the screen. They showed cities with tall buildings. They showed roads with small moving objects. They showed green areas with plants and trees. "The main life form walks on two legs," she said. "They have soft skin and no natural weapons. They build things with their hands. The computer thinks. They are smart, but not very strong." Zeph-9 changed colors again. This time, his crystal body turned orange, which meant he was thinking hard. He had seen many worlds and many different kinds of life. Most smart creatures were either very strong or very good at hiding. These creatures seemed to be neither. "What is their world like?" he asked. "The computer is still studying it," Velterra said. "But something is strange about their air." At that moment, the ship's computer made a soft sound. It was the sound it made when it finished a big job. "Analysis of planet atmosphere is complete," the computer said in its calm voice. "Tell us what you found," said Zeph-9. "The atmosphere contains 21% oxygen," the computer said. The control room became very quiet. All the aliens stopped what they were doing and looked at each other. Velterra's purple skin turned pale. Another crew member, who looked like a walking tree with eyes, made a sound like wind through leaves. "Are you sure?" asked Zeph-9. His crystal body was now bright red, which meant he was shocked. "I have checked the numbers 3 times, the computer said. "The oxygen level is 21%. "That is impossible," said the tree-like alien. His name was Groxel. "No smart life can live in that much oxygen. It would burn their lungs. It would kill them in minutes." Velterra was checking her own instruments. "The computer is right," she said. "I am seeing the same numbers. The air on that planet would be poison to us." Zeph-9 walked to the big window at the front of the ship. He looked down at the blue and green world below them. On most worlds where smart life lived, the air had only 8–12% oxygen. Anything more than that was dangerous. His own world had only 9% oxygen, and that was normal. "Maybe they live underground," suggested Groxel. "Maybe they only come to the surface wearing protection." "Look at the pictures again," said Velterra. She put new images on the screen. They showed the 2-legged creatures walking around in the open air. They wore no masks. They had no tubes bringing them clean air. They just walked around breathing the poison atmosphere like it was nothing far below them. On the surface of the planet called Earth, A man named Jake Miller was finishing his workday. Jake worked in construction, building new houses. He was in the city of Denver, high up in the mountains. The air was thin there, even thinner than normal Earth air. But Jake worked all day without any problems. He carried heavy materials, operated big machines, and climbed up tall ladders. When his workday ended, he was tired but fine. Jake did not know that alien eyes were watching him from space. He did not know that what he was doing seemed impossible to those aliens. To Jake, it was just another normal day. At the same time, in a different part of Earth, a woman named Lisa Carter was deep under the ocean. She was a scientist who studied sea life. She was inside a small submarine, going down to the dark bottom of the sea. The pressure down there was enormous. It would crush most alien bodies like paper. But Lisa's equipment was made by humans, and it kept her safe. She did her work calmly, collecting samples and taking pictures of strange deep-sea creatures. Lisa also did not know about the aliens watching from above. She was just doing her job, exploring places that most life forms in the galaxy could never survive. Back on the alien ship, Commander Zeph-9 was making a decision. "These creatures are clearly primitive," he said. "Look at their technology. Look at their simple buildings. They cannot even leave their own planet yet." "But Commander," said Veltara, "how do they survive in that atmosphere?" "They must be adapted to it," Zeph-9 said. "But that same adaptation probably makes them weak in other ways. Any species that lives in such a harsh environment must be fragile. They probably cannot handle changes in temperature or pressure. They probably get sick easily." Groxelm nodded his tree-like head. "It makes sense. They evolved in poison air, so they must be weak in every other way." Zeph-9 made his final decision. "We will report back to the Galactic Council. This world has intelligent life, but they are not dangerous. They are probably very fragile. Because of their harsh world, we will classify them as a low-threat species. Should we make contact with them?" asked Veltara. "Eventually," said Zeph-9, "but there is no hurry. They are clearly not advanced enough to be a problem. We will let the Council decide when to send a proper diplomatic mission." The alien ship began to move away from Earth. The aliens thought they understood what they had seen. They believed they had found a weak species that somehow survived on a death world. They had no idea how wrong they were. As their ship disappeared into the darkness between stars, life on Earth continued as normal. Jake Miller went home to his family. Lisa Carter returned to the surface from her deep-sea dive. Millions of other humans went about their daily lives, breathing the poison air, living at crushing pressures, and doing things that the aliens thought were impossible. The aliens had made a big mistake. They thought Earth's harsh environment made humans weak. They did not understand that it had made humans strong in ways they could not imagine. Soon they would learn the truth. But for now, they flew away, confident in their wrong conclusions about the strange creatures on the blue and green world. 3 months had passed since the first alien ship visited Earth. The Galactic Council had received the report from Commander Zeph-9. They read about the strange world with poison air and the weak creatures that lived there. The Council met in their great hall on the planet Nexus Prime. Representatives from 100 different worlds sat around a massive circular table. Some looked like plants, others like rocks, and some like things that had no name. They all agreed on one thing after reading the report. "These Earth creatures are not dangerous," said Council Leader Maxforth. Her body was like a giant flower, with glowing petals. "They live on a death world, so they must be very weak." "We should make contact soon," said another council member. "Weak species often have useful resources. We can help them, and they can help us." The council chose Ambassador Crixvell to lead the first official contact mission. Krixvel was considered one of their best diplomats. His body was tall and thin, made of a material that looked like silver metal. He had dealt with many primitive species before. Remember, Krixvel told his team as they prepared for the journey, these creatures evolved in terrible conditions. The air on their world would kill us in minutes. They must be very fragile because of this. We will need to be gentle with them. His team nodded. They packed special equipment for dealing with weak species. They brought medical supplies in case the humans got hurt easily. They brought simple gifts that would not overwhelm primitive minds. The ship they chose was called the Harmony Bridge. It was designed for peaceful contact with new species. It had the best air filters and protection systems. The aliens thought they would need all of this protection to survive on the poison world called Earth. Meanwhile, on Earth, humans were getting ready too. The United Nations had been preparing for this day since the first alien ship was spotted. Secretary General Elena Rodriguez had been chosen to speak for all of humanity. This is the most important day in human history, Elena said to her team. We must show them that Earth is ready to join the galactic community. Dr. Ben Parker was the lead scientist for the contact team. He had studied the data from the first alien visit. He was excited to learn about alien technology and culture. Their ship uses technologies we can barely understand, Ben told his colleagues. Think of what we could learn from them. Colonel Amy Roberts was in charge of security. She was a tough military officer, but she also understood diplomacy. We want to make friends, not enemies, Amy said to her soldiers. But we also need to be ready for anything. The alien ship approached Earth on a clear Tuesday morning. It was much bigger than the first ship. It looked like a giant silver bird as it flew through Earth's atmosphere. The aliens inside were nervous. The atmospheric readings are even worse than the report said, gasped Science Officer Thelmore. He was a creature that looked like a walking jellyfish. How do we survive in this poison air? Our suits will protect us, said Krixvel, but he sounded worried. Just remember to check your air supply every few minutes. The ship landed in Central Park in New York City. Thousands of humans had gathered to watch, but they stayed back to give the aliens space. The human welcoming committee stood nearby, ready to greet their visitors. The alien ship's door opened slowly. A ramp came down to the ground. Then the aliens began to come out. They were wearing thick environmental suits that covered their entire bodies. The suits had tubes and tanks and blinking lights. The aliens moved slowly and carefully, like they were walking on the bottom of the ocean. Krixvel was the first to reach the bottom of the ramp. His environmental suit was bigger than the others and had more equipment. Through his helmet, he could see the humans waiting for him. The humans looked so strange to him. They wore no protective suits. They had no breathing equipment. They stood in the open air like it was perfectly safe. Krixvel could not understand how they were still alive. Dr. Ben Parker stepped forward with a big smile on his face. He was wearing a simple blue suit and tie. No helmet, no air tanks, no protection at all. Welcome to Earth, Ben said, holding out his hand. We are honored to meet you. Krixvel stared at the offered hand. He could see it clearly through his helmet. The human skin was pink and soft. There were no scales or armor, no claws or spikes, just soft, vulnerable flesh exposed to the deadly atmosphere. How are you not dead? Krixvel whispered into his suit's radio. His aide, a creature called Paul Nex, was checking his instruments. Ambassador, the atmospheric readings are confirmed. 21% oxygen, high pressure, trace gases that would be toxic to most species. These creatures should not be able to survive out here. But Ben Parker was still standing there, breathing normally, looking perfectly healthy. Behind him, other humans were also standing in the open air. Some were even children, running around and playing while their parents watched the historic meeting. "Is there a problem?" Elena Rodriguez asked. She had walked up to join Ben. Like him, she wore no protection against what the aliens thought was a poison atmosphere. You are not wearing any protective equipment," Crixwell managed to say through his suit speaker. Elena looked confused. "Protective equipment? For what?" "For the atmosphere," said Crixwell. "Your air is dangerous. It should kill any living thing in minutes." Now it was the humans' turn to look confused. Dr. Parker exchanged glances with Elena and Colonel Roberts. "I think there might be a misunderstanding," Ben said carefully. "This is our natural environment. We evolved here. This air is normal for us." Inside his environmental suit, Crixwell felt dizzy. His instruments were working perfectly. The atmospheric readings were accurate. But somehow these creatures were living and breathing in conditions that should be impossible. "Perhaps we should move this meeting indoors," suggested Elena. She could see that the aliens were having trouble, but even walking was difficult for the aliens. Their heavy suits made every step hard work. The Earth's atmosphere was fighting. Their equipment. Warning lights were blinking on their suits. Colonel Roberts noticed their struggle. "Are you all right? You seem to be having difficulty." "The atmospheric pressure," gasped Thelmore. "It is crushing our suits. And the oxygen concentration is burning through our filters." The humans looked at each other with concern. What was normal for them was apparently deadly for their visitors. "How long can you stay in this environment?" asked Dr. Parker. Crixwell checked his suit's readings. The numbers were not good. "Perhaps 1 hour, maybe 2 at most. Then we must return to our ship or our life support will fail." Elena made a quick decision. "Then let's make the most of the time we have. But please, let us know if you need to. Go back to your ship." As they walked toward the United Nations building, the aliens struggled with every step. What should have been a simple walk became a dangerous mission. Their suits were working harder and harder to keep them alive. Meanwhile, the humans walked easily beside them. Children ran past them, laughing and playing. Street vendors sold food in the open air. Construction workers operated heavy machinery nearby. Normal life continued all around them. To the aliens, it looked like magic. How could these soft, fragile creatures do things that were killing trained alien diplomats? How could they live so easily in an atmosphere that was destroying advanced alien technology? By the time they reached the building, Crixwell's suit was giving him urgent warnings. His air supply was running low. The atmospheric filters were failing. He was breathing hard inside his helmet. "I apologize," he said to Elena. "We must return to our ship immediately. This environment is more challenging than we expected." "Of course," Elena said. "But before you go, is there anything we can do to help? We want to make this meeting successful." Crixwell looked at her through his helmet. Here was a creature that could survive in conditions that were killing him, and she was offering to help him. It did not make sense. "We will need to rethink our approach," he said. "Perhaps we can meet inside our ship next time, where the environment is safer." As the aliens hurried back to their ship, the humans watched with concern. They had no idea that their ordinary world was a death trap to most alien species. They just wanted to be good hosts to their first alien visitors. The alien ship's door closed behind the diplomatic team. Inside, they removed their damaged environmental suits and breathed the clean, safe air of their ship. "This changes everything," Crixwell said to his team. "These creatures are not what we expected. They are not weak. They are incredibly strong." But he still did not understand the full truth. The aliens thought Earth was a death world that had somehow produced tough survivors. They did not yet realize that what made humans seem impossible was exactly what made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The next morning, the aliens were still inside their ship. They had spent the whole night fixing their environmental suits and checking their life support systems. The Earth's atmosphere had damaged their equipment more than they had expected. Ambassador Crixvel looked at the reports from his technical team. The news was not good. "Sir, our suits can only work for 30 minutes at a time now," said Engineer Vex Cole. His body looked like a collection of metal sticks held together by glowing energy. "The atmosphere is eating through our protective materials." "What about our backup systems?" asked Crixvel. "Also failing," Vex Cole replied. "The oxygen concentration is too high. It is making our filters work too hard. They are burning out." Crixvel was worried. He had been on many diplomatic missions, but none like this. Usually, the aliens were the ones with better technology and stronger bodies. Here, they were the weak ones. A message came from Earth. It was from Secretary General Elena Rodriguez. "Good morning," Elena's voice said through the ship's communication system. "We hope you are well. We have prepared a meeting room for today's discussions. We are ready whenever you are." Crixvel looked at his damaged suits. 30 minutes was not enough time for proper diplomacy. But he had to try. "We will be there soon," he replied. The alien team put on their repaired suits and left the ship again. This time, they moved even more slowly. The suits were heavier and less efficient after the damage from yesterday. The humans were waiting in a conference room inside the United Nations building. Elena Rodriguez was there with Dr. Ben Parker and several other officials. They all looked fresh and comfortable. They had been working for hours already, but they showed no signs of being tired. "Welcome," Elena said as the aliens entered. "Please, sit down. We have much to discuss." The aliens sat carefully in the chairs that had been provided. Even sitting down was difficult in their heavy suits. They watched the humans with growing confusion. Dr. Christine Hayes was the first human to speak. She was Earth's best expert on alien life forms. She had been studying the visitors since they arrived. "We are very excited to learn about your civilization," Christine said. "We have so many questions about your technology and your worlds." As she spoke, she moved her hands in the air to show her excitement. The aliens stared at her exposed skin. No protection at all, yet she was perfectly fine. "Before we begin," said Science Officer Thelmore, "we must ask you something. How do you survive in this atmosphere?" Christine looked confused. "What do you mean?" "Your air," Thelmore explained. "It should be deadly to any living thing. The oxygen concentration alone should burn your lungs." Dr. Parker leaned forward. "I think I understand the problem. You come from worlds with different atmospheres. What seems normal to us must seem extreme to you." "Extreme?" Crixvel's voice came through his suit speaker. "Your atmospheric pressure is 1.3 times what we consider the maximum safe level. Your oxygen concentration is double what most species can handle. This is not just different. This is impossible." The humans looked at each other. They were beginning to understand that they were very different from their visitors. "This is our natural environment," Elena said slowly. "We evolved here over millions of years. Our bodies are adapted to these conditions." "But how do you work in such conditions?" asked Thelmore. "We can barely move in our protective suits. How do you function normally?" Just then, the meeting was interrupted. A human worker entered the room carrying a heavy box of equipment. The man's name was Pete Johnson, and he was there to fix the air conditioning system. "Sorry to bother you folks," Pete said cheerfully. "Just need to check the air system. This old building gets stuffy sometimes." The aliens watched in amazement as Pete lifted the heavy box like it weighed nothing. He moved quickly and easily, breathing the deadly air without any problems. To him, it was just another day at work. "How much does that equipment weigh?" asked Crixvel. Pete looked at the box. "Oh, this may be 50 pounds, not too bad." 50 pounds was more than most aliens could lift even in their home environments. Pete was carrying it like it was empty. "And you are not tired?" asked Thelmore. Pete laughed. "Tired? I've been working since 6 this morning. Got about 10 more hours to go. This is just the beginning of my day." The aliens fell silent. 10 more hours of work? In this atmosphere? With that kind of physical stress? It was impossible. After Pete left, the meeting continued, but the aliens were distracted. They kept asking questions about human abilities, instead of talking about diplomacy. "How long can you work without rest?" asked Crixvell. "It depends," said Dr. Parker. "Office workers like us can work 8 to 12 hours a day. Manual laborers often work similar hours. Some people work even longer when needed." "And you do this every day?" 5 or 6 days a week, usually," Elena said. "Some people work 7 days a week." The aliens could not believe what they were hearing. In their suits, they could barely survive for 30 minutes. These humans were talking about working for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, in conditions that would kill most galactic species. "What about physical exercise?" asked Christine. "Do your species do that for fun? Exercise?" Thelmore sounded confused. "Yes, like running or lifting weights to stay healthy." "We do not understand," said Crixvell. "Why would you make your body work harder than necessary?" "Well, it keeps us strong and healthy," Christine explained. "Many humans run several miles every day. Some lift heavy weights. Others swim long distances." At that moment, as if called by fate, a woman jogged past the window. Her name was Katie Williams, and she was on her daily 10-mile run. She moved smoothly and easily, breathing the thick air without any trouble. The aliens pressed against the window to watch her. She was moving at a speed that would exhaust most of them in minutes, and she looked like she could continue for hours. "How fast is she moving?" asked Thel-Moore. Dr. Parker looked out the window. "Maybe 7 or 8 miles per hour. That's a normal jogging pace. For how long? She probably runs for an hour or 2. Some people run marathons. That's over 26 miles. 26 miles? Crixvell's suit made a warning sound. His stress levels were rising so high that his equipment was reacting. "Some people run even farther," Christine added helpfully. "Ultramarathons can be 50 or 100 miles. Crixvell had to sit down. His suit's life support systems were working harder as his body tried to process this information. "This is impossible," he whispered. "No species can do these things." But the evidence was right in front of them. Humans were not just surviving in impossible conditions. They were thriving. They worked long hours, exercised for fun, and did things that would kill most aliens. "Perhaps we should take a break," suggested Elena. She could see that the aliens were having trouble. "Yes," agreed Crixvell. "We need to return to our ship. Our suits are failing." As they prepared to leave, Dr. Parker made an offer. "If your suits are having problems, we could build you a better meeting room. One with the atmosphere you need. You would do that?" asked Crixvell. "Of course," Elena said. "We want these meetings to be successful. We want to be friends." The aliens looked at each other through their helmet visors. These humans were offering to change their own building to make the aliens more comfortable. And they were doing it casually, like it was no big deal. "We would be grateful," said Krix-VEL. As the aliens walked back to their ship, they passed more humans going about their daily lives. Construction workers were building a new office tower, working high in the air on steel beams. Emergency responders were running to help someone who had been hurt. Children were playing in the park, running and laughing. All of them were doing things that would be impossible for most galactic species. All of them were breathing poison air and living under crushing pressure. and all of them were acting like it was perfectly normal. Inside their ship, the aliens removed their damaged suits and sat in their safe, clean environment. They looked at each other in silence for a long time. "We were wrong about them," said Thelmore finally. "Very wrong," agreed Crixvell. "They are not weak creatures barely surviving on a death world. They are incredibly strong creatures who have made a death world into their home." "What do we tell the Galactic Council?" asked Vex Cole. Crixvell thought about all the things they had seen. Humans working 12 hours a day in impossible conditions. Humans running for miles just for fun. Humans offering to change their own building to make aliens comfortable. "We tell them the truth," he said. "We tell them that we have found the strongest species in the galaxy. And we tell them that we want to be their friends." Outside the ship, the city of New York continued its daily life. Millions of humans went about their business, unaware that they had just shocked the alien visitors with their impossible abilities. To them, it was just another normal day on Earth. The next few days brought even more surprises for the alien visitors. While their engineers worked to build a safe meeting room with proper atmosphere, the aliens watched human activities through their ship's cameras and sensors. What they saw made them question everything they thought they knew about life in the galaxy. On the third day, they watched a group of humans doing something that seemed impossible. A man named Gary Townsend was working high up in the Rocky Mountains, building a radio tower. The altitude was so high that the air was even thinner than normal Earth air. "Look at those readings," said Science Officer Thelmore, pointing at his instruments. "The atmospheric pressure up there is only 60% of normal Earth levels." "That would kill most species instantly," added Engineer Vex Cole. "Their blood would start to boil. Their lungs would collapse." But Gary and his team were working normally. They carried heavy equipment, operated complex machinery, and seemed perfectly fine. They had been working at that altitude for weeks. "How is this possible?" asked Ambassador Crixvell. "Even humans should not be able to survive up there." The answer came from Dr. Ben Parker during their next communication. "Oh, that's normal for people who live at high altitude. The human body adapts. We have people living permanently at even higher elevations." "Higher?" Crixvell's voice cracked through the communicator. "Sure. There are cities in the Andes Mountains where people live at 12,000 feet above sea level. Some people climb mountains that are over 29,000 feet high." The aliens had to check their translation equipment. Surely they had misunderstood. 29,000 feet? Repeated Thelmore. "That is higher than most spacecraft fly in atmosphere." "Well, they use oxygen tanks for the very highest peaks," Ben admitted. "But even so, they climb for days in conditions that would kill almost any other life form." The aliens looked at each other in shock. Not only could humans survive in their poison atmosphere, but they could also survive in places where there was almost no atmosphere at all. But the surprises were not over. On the fourth day, they observed something even more incredible. A woman named Maria Santos was working deep under the ocean. She was in a small submarine, diving to the bottom of the sea to study sea creatures. "The pressure readings are impossible," said Vex Cole, staring at his instruments. "She is descending to depths where the water pressure is crushing." They watched as Maria's submarine went deeper and deeper. The pressure outside was increasing every second. At 1,000 feet deep, it would crush most alien bodies instantly. At 2,000 feet, even there, strongest spacecraft would start to buckle. But Maria kept going deeper. 3,000 feet, reported Thelmore. 4,000 feet. 5,000 feet. Finally, the submarine reached the ocean floor at 6,000 feet below the surface. The pressure there was enormous. It was like having a mountain pressing down from above. "Her craft should be crushed like paper," whispered Crixvell. But Maria was fine. She operated her equipment calmly, collecting samples and taking pictures. To her, it was just another day at work. "Human engineering," said Vex Cole with something like awe in his voice. "They build machines that can survive pressures that would destroy our best technology." When they asked Dr. Parker about this, his answer was simple. "We've been exploring the deep ocean for decades. Some of our submarines can go even deeper. We've sent machines to the deepest parts of our oceans, over 35,000 feet down. The aliens had no words. Humans were not just surviving on their death world. They were exploring the most impossible parts of it. But the biggest shock came on the 5th day. The aliens. Environmental suits were completely failing now. The Earth's atmosphere was too corrosive. Their backup systems were also breaking down. They were running out of safe air to breathe. "We need to evacuate," said Medical Officer Zil Mex. His body looked like a collection of floating bubbles filled with green liquid. "Another day in this atmosphere, and our respiratory systems will be permanently damaged." Crixvell made the difficult decision. Prepare for emergency departure. We cannot survive here any longer. But as they prepared to leave, Colonel Amy Roberts noticed something was wrong. She contacted the ship directly. "Is everything all right up there?" Amy's voice came through the communication system. "Our sensors show unusual activity from your ship." Crixvell was embarrassed to admit the truth. "We are having technical difficulties. Our life support systems are failing." "Failing?" Amy sounded concerned. "Is there anything we can do to help?" "The atmosphere is too harsh for our equipment," Crixvell explained. "We must return to our home system for repairs." There was silence from the human side for a moment. Then Amy spoke again. "Please don't leave yet. We think we can help." Within 2 hours, something amazing happened. Human engineers arrived at the alien ship. They brought equipment and materials that the aliens had never seen before. The lead engineer was a man named Gary Thompson, the same man who had been working in the mountains. He was breathing the normal Earth air without any protection while he worked on alien technology that was failing because the air was too dangerous. "Let's see what we can do," Gary said cheerfully as he examined the alien environmental suits. Working with alien engineer Vex Cole, Gary began to modify the suits. He used human materials that were designed to survive in Earth's atmosphere. He added human-made filters and protective coatings. "These materials," said Vex Cole in amazement, "they are designed to work in your atmosphere." "Well, yeah," said Gary. "We've been dealing with this environment our whole lives. We know how to make things that can survive here." The modifications worked. The alien suits could now function in Earth's atmosphere for much longer periods. The aliens could stay and continue their diplomatic mission. "How can we thank you?" asked Crixvell. "No need," said Amy Roberts. "We're happy to help. That's what friends do." The word friends hit the aliens hard. These humans had just saved their mission. They had used their own technology and materials to help visitors from another world, and they called it friendship. That evening, the aliens held a meeting in their ship. All of them were there: diplomats, scientists, engineers, and medical officers. "We need to make a new report to the Galactic Council," said Crixvell. "Everything we thought we knew about this species is wrong." "They are not weak," said Fellmore. "They are incredibly strong. They are not primitive," added Vex Cole. "Their technology is different from ours, but it is very advanced." "They are not dangerous," said Medical Officer Zilmex. "They are helpful and kind." Crixvell nodded. "They live in conditions that would kill most of us. They work in places where we cannot survive. They build machines that can withstand pressures that would destroy our best equipment. And when we needed help, they gave it freely." "What do we call a species like this?" asked THEL-more.KRIXVEL, thought for a long moment. "We call them remarkable. We call them the strongest species we have ever encountered. And we call them our Friends. Outside the ship, the humans continued their daily lives. Gary Thompson was back at work in the mountains. Maria Santos was planning her next deep-sea expedition. Colonel Roberts was coordinating security for the continued diplomatic meetings. None of them knew that they had just changed how the entire galaxy would view their species. They had shown kindness to strangers, shared their technology freely, and proven that Earth's death world conditions had created the most resilient and generous species in known space. The aliens were beginning to understand that humans were not just survivors. They were pioneers, explorers, and helpers. They were everything the galaxy needed, but had never dared to hope for. The next day would bring even more revelations as the word spread beyond Earth. But for now, the aliens marveled at what they had learned. They had come expecting to find weak primitives on a harsh world. Instead, they had found the strongest and kindest species in the galaxy, and those humans had offered them friendship. Ambassador Crixvel sat in his ship's communication room, preparing to send the most important message of his career. The report he was about to transmit would change everything the Galactic Council thought they knew about Earth and its people. Council Leader Mex Vorth, he began, speaking into the long-range communicator. I must inform you that our initial assessment of the Earth species was completely wrong. On the planet Nexus Prime, hundreds of light years away, the Galactic Council received his message with surprise. Council Leader Mex Vorth's flower-like petals turned dark blue, which meant she was confused. Explain, she said. These humans are not weak, Crixvel continued. They are the strongest species we have ever encountered. They live in atmospheric conditions that would kill most of us in minutes. They work in environments where our best equipment fails. And they do all of this as easily as we breathe. The council chamber fell silent. Representatives from 100 worlds looked at each other in disbelief. Are you certain? Asked Council Member Drex Vor, whose body was made of living stone. Your original report said they were fragile primitives. I was wrong, Crixvel admitted. We all were wrong. We thought their harsh world made them weak. Instead, it made them incredibly strong. Over the next few days, Crixvel's detailed reports reached every corner of the galaxy. The news spread like wildfire through the galactic communication networks. The species that everyone had dismissed as us, harmless primitives, were actually the most physically capable beings anyone had ever discovered. On the military world of Korath Prime, General Vex Thane read the reports with growing amazement. His crystal body turned bright red as he processed the information. They can work for 12 hours a day in atmospheric conditions that would incapacitate our best soldiers, he said to his staff. They climb mountains higher than our aircraft. Can fly. They dive to ocean depths that would crush our submarines. Sir, said one of his officers, should we consider them a threat? General Vex Thane thought about this carefully. No, he said finally. According to these reports, they offered help to our diplomats when they were in danger. They shared their technology freely. A truly dangerous species would not do such things. On the trading world of Nexus 7, merchant princes calculated new possibilities. If humans could survive in extreme environments, they could work on worlds that other species found impossible to inhabit. Think of the mining operations we could establish, said Trade Master Gelnex. There are worlds rich in rare minerals that we cannot reach because the conditions are too harsh. But these humans could work there easily. But the humans were already showing that they had their own plans. Back on Earth, Captain Alex Turner was preparing for humanity's first mission to another planet in their own solar system. He was part of the Mars colonization program, getting ready to establish a permanent human settlement on the Red Planet. The aliens watched in fascination as Alex trained for his mission. Mars had an atmosphere that was almost non-existent, and temperatures that would freeze most galactic species solid. To the aliens, It was another death world. To Alex, it was humanity's next home. We've been planning this mission for years, Alex explained to the alien observers. Mars is challenging, but we think we can make it work. Challenging? Asked Science Officer Fellmore. The atmospheric pressure on Mars is less than 1% of your Earth normal. The temperature can drop to 200 degrees below freezing. Alex shrugged. We'll adapt. We always do. The aliens were learning that this was how humans thought about everything. Where other species saw impossible barriers, humans saw interesting challenges. Word of human capabilities spread to the most remote corners of the galaxy. On the water world of Aqua Prime, where amphibious beings lived in shallow seas, the reports caused great excitement. They can dive to depths that would crush our deepest submarines, said Ocean Lord Merketh. Perhaps they could help us explore the deep trenches of our world that we have never been able to reach. On the high-gravity world of Titan Rex, where powerful rock-like beings struggled with their own harsh environment, the news brought hope. If these humans can thrive on their world and expand to even harsher places, said Mountain King Durstone, perhaps they could teach us how to better survive on our own planet. 6 months after first contact, everything had changed. The Galactic Council held an emergency session to discuss the new reality. Representatives from every major world attended, either in person or through long-range communication. We must revise all of our protocols, announced Council Leader Mex Forth. The Earth species, humans, are not primitives to be protected. They are potential partners to be respected. More than partners, said Military Commander Zarvex. They could be the key to expanding galactic civilization into regions we have never been able to explore. The Council voted unanimously to offer Earth full membership in the galactic community. But they also voted on something else. They wanted human help. There are 17 worlds in our territory that are rich in resources but too dangerous for normal colonization, explained Exploration Chief Nexmord. The atmospheric conditions, pressure levels, or gravitational forces make them impossible for most species to inhabit. But not for humans, added Scientific Director Paul Vesh. These worlds would be challenging for them, but not impossible. The offer that came to Earth was unprecedented in galactic history. Instead of being asked to follow galactic rules and adapt to galactic standards, humans were being asked to lead exploration efforts into the galaxy's most dangerous frontiers. Secretary General Elena Rodriguez read the proposal with amazement. They want us to establish colonies on worlds that they consider too dangerous to inhabit. And they're offering us full partnerships in exchange, added Dr. Ben Parker. Shared technology, cultural exchange, and equal representation in the Galactic Council. Colonel Amy Roberts smiled as she read the military cooperation sections. They want human advisors to help train their forces for extreme environment operations. The human response was typically practical. We accept, Elena said simply. But we want to make sure this is a partnership, not just us doing dangerous work for others. The galactic response was immediate and enthusiastic. Within weeks, joint human-alien teams were being formed. Human engineers worked with alien scientists to design new technologies. Human explorers trained alien expedition teams for harsh environment missions. On the construction sites where Gary Thompson worked, alien observers studied human building techniques. In the deep ocean where Maria Santos conducted her research, alien scientists marveled at human underwater technology. The first joint colony ship was launched 6 months later. Its destination was a world that the aliens called Furnace Prime, a planet with surface temperatures hot enough to melt most metals and an atmosphere thick with corrosive gases. The alien crew members wore the most advanced protective suits their civilization could build. The human crew members wore equipment that looked primitive by comparison, but it worked just as well. Captain Sarah Martinez, the human leader of the expedition, stood on the bridge next to her alien co-commander, a crystalline being named Kethvel. "Are you ready for this?" Kethvel asked. Even through his protective suit, his concern was obvious. Sarah smiled. "It's going to be challenging, but that's what makes it interesting." As the ship approached Furnace Prime, the alien crew prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives. The human crew prepared for what they considered their next great adventure. The galaxy was about to learn that when humans said something would be challenging but interesting, they meant they were about to do something that everyone else thought was impossible. Back on Earth, life continued as normal. Jake Miller was still building houses in Denver. Lisa Carter was still exploring the deep ocean. Katie Williams was still running her daily marathons. They had no idea that their ordinary daily activities had revolutionized galactic civilization. They had shown the galaxy that the most dangerous worlds could become homes, that the most impossible conditions could be overcome, and that the strongest species in known space was also the most willing to help others. The aliens had dismissed humans as fragile creatures, barely surviving on a death world. Now they knew the truth. Humans were not fragile survivors. They were the galaxy's newest and greatest pioneers, ready to go where no one else could go and to turn the impossible into the inevitable. And it all started because the aliens had scanned Earth's atmosphere and misunderstood what they found.